Right now, somewhere, someone is biting into a burger without thinking twice. No hunt, no risk, no blood on their hands. Just a wrapper, a receipt, and a craving satisfied in under 4 minutes. That craving, the specific, almost involuntary pull towards something rich, fatty, and dense with protein, feels like a preference, a taste, something you'd order off a menu. But here's what nobody tells you. That exact craving is at least 3.4 million years old. And you've spent less than 0.01% of that craving's existence being able to satisfy it without walking towards something that could kill you. Long before supermarkets, long before fire, long before anything you'd recognize as human. Ancient humans felt that same pull, and answering it nearly got them killed, over and over for millions of years. By the end of this video, you will never look at a steak dinner the same way again. Here's the myth almost everyone believes. Our ancestors became meat eaters because they became hunters. Brave, strategic, spears in hand, chasing prey across the savannah like something out of a documentary. It's almost completely wrong. In 2023, researchers working at a site called Nyayanga in Kenya uncovered butchered hippo bones lying beside some of the oldest stone tools ever found, dated to between 3 million and 2.6 million years old. Old enough that scientists still aren't sure which species did it. A tooth found nearby belonged not to our genus Homo, but to Paranthropus, a heavy-jawed, small-brained cousin on a completely different branch of the family tree, one that eventually went extinct. Sit with that. It's possible the first butchers in human history weren't our direct ancestors at all, and they almost certainly weren't hunters. They were scavengers, small, slow, unarmed primates picking through the leftovers of animals that real predators had already killed. You would have felt it in your spine every time you approached a carcass. The specific fear of being watched by something bigger, faster, and better equipped to kill you than you were to defend yourself. Scavenging carried its own brutal arithmetic. Get to a carcass too early, and the original predator is still defending it. Get there too late, and hyenas, with jaws strong enough to crack femurs like twigs, have already stripped it to nothing. There was a narrow, dangerous window in between, and your ancestors had to learn to read it. The sound of a pride moving off, the specific silence after a kill, the smell of blood carried on wind from a direction they couldn't see. Miss that window, and you went home with nothing. Misjudge it, and you might not go home at all. The question was never whether ancient hominins wanted meat. The question was always how much risk they were willing to take to get it. They didn't have to take that risk. They took it anyway. If this is the first time you've heard any of this, subscribe. New history every week. Before we go any further, you need to understand something scientists have been getting wrong for decades. For most of the 20th century, hunter and scavenger were treated like two separate categories, as if your ancestors were one or the other, a noble predator or a desperate opportunist. The real picture, pieced together site by site, is far messier than that. Most researchers now believe early hominins did both, shifting strategy carcass by carcass, day by day, based on nothing more than what was in front of them and how much danger it came with. At Dikika, Ethiopia, a team led by paleoanthropologist Zerisane Alamsij found two fossilized animal bones, a rib and a femur shaft, covered in unmistakable cut marks and percussion scars. Not chewed, cut deliberately with a sharp-edged stone. Published in Nature in 2010 by a team including archaeologist Shannon McFerrin, the bones were dated to roughly 3.4 million years old. 800,000 years earlier than scientists had previously believed meat eating began. The species responsible wasn't Homo, it was Australopithecus afarensis, the same species as Lucy, barely 4 feet tall, a brain a third the size of yours, still built more for climbing trees than walking long distances across open ground. Imagine crouching over a carcass with a fist-sized stone, no idea what you're doing has a name, no idea it will ever mean anything to anyone, just cutting, awkwardly, at flesh you weren't built to eat. Because the plants around you weren't enough anymore, this finding is disputed. Some researchers argue the marks could have come from animals trampling the bones over sharp rocks, not deliberate butchery. Science doesn't hand out certainty easily, and honest history tells you when the evidence is contested instead of pretending it's settled. But even the most conservative, undisputed evidence cut-marked bones at Buri and Gona, Ethiopia, alongside the oldest confirmed stone tools, still pushes the date back to roughly 2.6 million years ago. However you slice it, meat entered the human diet long before humans existed to eat it. They didn't have to cut deeper. They did it anyway. Here's where the story stops being about survival and starts being about strategy. At Kanjera South in Kenya, archaeologists including Joseph Ferraro and Tom Plummer uncovered something dated to almost exactly 2 million years ago that looks less like opportunistic scavenging and more like a system. Small antelope carcasses repeatedly processed in the same locations over and over for generations. Occasional access to much larger animals, wildebeest-sized, cracked open for marrow. This wasn't a lucky find once in a while. This was early Homo carrying meat back to the same spot, again and again, the first faint outline of something you'd recognize, a home. A place you bring food to. Instead of eating wherever you happen to find it, think about what that decision actually required. Carrying raw meat across open grassland, past hyenas, past lions, past everything that wanted it as badly as you did, because sharing that meal with the group mattered more than the risk of getting caught carrying it. They didn't have to share it. They did it anyway. At Olduvai Gorge, similar evidence dating to roughly 1.8 million years ago shows the same pattern at a larger scale. Entire assemblages of butchered bone. Everything from small animals to elephants, alongside thousands of stone tools. Anthropologists call this behavior central place foraging. It sounds clinical. It wasn't. It meant trusting that the people waiting at that spot, the ones too young, too old, or too injured to make the trip themselves, would still be there when you got back, and that they'd share what little safety the group had to offer in return for what you carried home. That trade, repeated for 1 million years, is arguably the first thread of the social contract every human society has been built on since. If this video made you think of someone who's fed you when you couldn't feed yourself, go ahead and send it to them. I'll be here when you get back. And here's the question underneath all of this that most people never think to ask: what did meat actually do to us? Meat is dense with calories and fat in a way leaves, roots, and fruit simply aren't. Your brain, it turns out, is one of the most expensive organs a body can run, burning roughly 20% of your entire resting energy despite being a small fraction of your body weight. Researchers Leslie Aiello and Peter Wheeler proposed something now known as the expensive tissue hypothesis. As diet shifted toward calorie-dense meat and marrow, the digestive system, expensive to maintain, constantly working, could afford to shrink. The energy that freed up went somewhere, into a brain that kept growing generation after generation until it became the one you're using right now to watch this video. It's a strange trade to picture. A shorter gut, a longer childhood, a body investing less in digestion and more in an organ that does almost nothing to keep you alive in the next 5 minutes, but everything to keep you alive over the next 50 years. Evolution rarely gambles on something that expensive unless the payoff is enormous. But here's what makes it even stranger. You don't need to look 3 million years into the past to see this instinct still running. In Ivory Coast's Thai forest, primatologist Christophe Boisch has spent decades documenting wild chimpanzees hunting colobus monkeys. And what happens after the kill matters as much as the hunt itself. Meat isn't shared equally. It's shared strategically, with allies, with mates, with individuals whose loyalty is worth cementing. Meat, in other words, was never just food. It was currency, and it still is. Every advantage came bundled with a new kind of fear. The fear of the predators you were now competing with directly. The fear of carrying meat through open country. The fear of a group depending on you to come back with something. Somewhere in that trade-off is the first blueprint of responsibility, of providing, of being needed by people who are counting on you. We don't know exactly who cut those first bones at Dikika. We don't know if it was one desperate individual or a small, terrified group taking a risk none of them fully understood. The bones don't tell us that. They only tell us it happened, and that it happened again and again for 3 million years until it built the brain, the body, and the appetite you carry around every single day without thinking twice about it. Tonight or sometime this week, that craving will show up again. The pull towards something rich and dense with protein, arriving for no reason you could actually explain if someone asked. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling it. It is not weakness, and it is not a modern indulgence. It is one of the oldest, most reliable signals your body has, still firing exactly as it was built to. Your ancient ancestors didn't get to satisfy that pull in 4 minutes with a wrapper and a receipt. They had to earn it, next to a carcass that wasn't theirs, with something bigger and hungrier close enough to smell. So here's the question worth sitting with the next time you sit down to eat. If that first bite of meat is part of what built the brain you're thinking with right now, how much of who you are today did you actually choose? And how much of it was decided 3 million years ago by someone who was simply too hungry to wait?